as always, I am back with another video, another close-up cup to whisper video. And I figure it's been a little while since I have done a Storytime life update, just kind of casual whisper ramble. So that's what we're gonna do today. But as always, if you have a request, if you want to see something more from me, maybe something I haven't done before or something that you just want me to do more of, definitely let me know in the comments below. And if you have not had a chance to subscribe to this channel yet, please feel free to do so if you feel moved in any way to do it. Of course, no pressure, but I of course appreciate all of the lovely members of this group and people who feel like a big little family, if you will. So anyways, I want to talk about a recent long weekend trip that I made to New York. And it was really my first time back to my old neighborhood since I moved almost 2 years ago now. So that was a little bit more emotional than I thought it would be. But we're going to talk about that and all the stuff that happened this weekend because I just want to catch up with you. So the reason I went to the city was for a training / conference. It was a 3-day training, and it wasn't through my work per se, but it is directly related to the work that I do, right? So it was like within my industry. So I'm saying that now to clarify why I went with a few coworkers and also my friend. It was sort of like a mix. But not to say that the coworkers I went with weren't my friends. They're actually two good friends of mine that work closely with me that, had similar interests in going to this training. So anyway, that's neither here nor there, but last Thursday, me and my two coworkers drove down to New York and met up with my friend who has family on Long Island. Long Island. Should I do this in an accent? No, I'm just kidding. But her family have very thick New York accents. They've lived on Long Island for a while, but for more of their life, I believe they were in Brooklyn. So either way, very thick New York accents of everybody in that household. And my friend used to have one, but she has since lost it since leaving New York. So we got there Thursday night. It took us a good amount of time because there was quite a lot of traffic and it was pouring rain, absolutely pouring rain. It seems like anytime I have a travel day, there's rain involved, which kind of annoying, but it is what it is. So we got there, and I think we got there around 9 o'clock. And we were hungry, so we went to a diner nearby. And it was, it was diner food. It was fine. Nothing to write home about, but, it did the trick because we were hungry. Then we got ready for the following day, which was the first day of the 3-day training / conference, whatever you want to call it. And the agenda was like pretty much jam-packed for each day, so we wanted to kind of go in with the plan. And so again, we were staying on Long Island, but the training itself was in Manhattan. was astounding, absolutely astounding. And mind you, we were nowhere close to a bathroom. It was not the bathroom, okay? I don't know what it was. Me and one of my friends were seated, and the other two went to the bathroom. And we're sitting there, and I'm like, do you smell that? Am I crazy, or do you smell that? And he's like, no, I definitely smell that. And we were like, okay, it's probably fine. It's probably just passing through, right? The others get back. They sit down, and we're like, do you smell that? And it still smelled really bad, and it was coming in like waves. And it was definitely the smell of sewage. I don't want to get too, like, I'm not going to explain that. You either know what that smells like or you don't, and I hope you haven't had to experience it too often, but it was really gross. Just because we're trying to eat, right? We're like trying to drink and trying to eat, and I'm not being dramatic, like it was really bad, and it felt like we were crazy because nobody else at any other table was reacting in any kind of way. Like, we're looking around, we're like, okay, are we crazy? But when I say it was bad, I mean like we were holding our breath, we were trying not to gag. Why we didn't just get up and go somewhere else, I don't know. I think we just kept thinking that it was going to get better. But it didn't get better at any point. And we did ask to switch tables. And the waiter was like, oh, I have to go, like, ask someone. I'll see, like, what we can do. And then he never came back. So we were like, alright, I guess that's not happening. And so we're, like, holding our nose, trying to breathe through our mouth, hoping that the smell of the food is going to, like, dissipate the smell of sewage, but it doesn't. It's, like, mixed in, and it feels like you're eating it, and it's, like, it was comical. I could not stop laughing. Like, I just, like, had a fit where I just, like, seeing everybody's faces. It felt like I was in an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which I've been watching. Side note, I've been binging it, really. I'm on season 3. And I feel like I'm having so many Curb Your Enthusiasm moments, and honestly, this whole weekend felt like that. Just like this series of comical errors that kept happening, but none too serious, right? They were just kind of funny. That was the first one. So, anyway, we eat our food and drink our coffee as fast as we can because we want to get out of there. Like, it's no good. And then we're kind of exploring after that, and we figure, oh, let's check out the High Line. Because, mind you, one of my coworkers is new to the area. He came from the south, so he's never been to New York, period. And so I'm like, okay, we want to do some of these like fun touristy things while we're here. Like, we're gonna mix it up with some of the more local gems as well as like the quintessential New York City experience. So we're in the area. I'm like, let's set up the High Line because it's a walking path that's pretty high elevated. They're like old railroad tracks converted into a walking path with like a little bit of green infrastructure. It's quite nice. You get a good view of the surrounding city, right? It goes on for quite a while. I want you to guess as to whether or not any of us checked the weather. The answer is no. We did not check the weather before traveling to and making it up the High Line. So we're walking for a very short time, like maybe a minute, before it starts to drizzle, and we're like, okay, that's ourselves at the training. And I feel like day ones are always challenging, like as an event organizer, because a lot can go wrong. And no shade to the conference. It was great, but I think it was a lot bigger than usual, than they're used to. And so, there were some technical difficulties where the registration table was down for a while. And so there was like a major backup when people were trying to sign in. So it kind of got a late start. And I think there were more people there than they were anticipating, despite having registration. But they ran out of water. I'm like, how do you run out of water? And they were in these like big ice glass jugs. But like, can someone refill them? It's just water. You know what I mean? And they had those sort of like refill stations for water bottles, which is what I used. But if you know me, you know that I'm a little bit of a hypochondriac / I kind of have like a fixation with like clean eating and clean water, and like I kind of get in my head about it sometimes. And I noticed that the water filter on those like stations, it wasn't green. It was on the like time to change it mode, time to change the filter. And so that's all I could really think about. Had I not known that, I would have just drank it happily. But after seeing it, I was like, oh, that doesn't feel good to me at all. But I had to just push that out of my head because I was really thirsty. It was a long training day, and they had already run out of water maybe midway through, if not sooner. So anyway, this video is not to throw shade on it, because again, it was like a great training and a good experience. But like anything, like any event, you're gonna run into those snafus, especially on the first day. And I'll just say like on the second day and third day, way better. I think they took some learning lessons and they were like, okay, here's how to improve. I feel like it was like a total change from the day before. So anyway, just wanted to throw that in there. So during the first session of the training, we were meeting with people from like all over the place. Many were in the country, but many were also out of the country. There was someone at our table from Italy, another from Germany, and then there was this one particular person who was from Michigan, I want to say. So in the country, obviously, but we got to talking to him for quite a while, and we kept seeing him throughout the day. And weirdly enough, once the training was over, we ran into him like at the lobby area as we were trying to figure out what the heck to do for dinner. And we're just like, hey, do you want to come get dinner with us? He was alone, and he looked kind of young. So I'm like, this guy's from Michigan. He's alone in the city. He's probably hungry. Like, let's invite him to dinner. So, and he had an idea of where he wanted to go, which was great. And we're like, okay, we'll follow you. And I don't know, kind of funny that the four of us just basically relied on a stranger to take us to dinner. We didn't ask any questions. He had like 1% on his battery, like on his phone battery. And he's like using a GPS, never been in New York. And we're just like, all right, we'll follow you. Like, I don't know. But he did get us there. Of course, when we got there, the line was out the door, like totally out the door onto the city block. And we're like, all right, that's not gonna work. We walked like over an hour to get there. So we were like, let's just find something nearby. Like, who cares at this point? We're hungry and we're tired. And it's raining again, you know. Drizzling this time, though. It wasn't that bad. We ended up finding an empanada place, and that was really good. So, it was all a part of the adventure. It was fun to just get out and walk around was apparently 23, which is still extremely young, but he looked even younger than that. We found out that he got so overwhelmed when he landed at JFK that he left his carry-on. Just left it. Couldn't be bothered to get it because he was so overwhelmed and stressed out. Meanwhile, that carry-on was pretty much most of what he had, so he had no clothes for the training, which dress code's kind of business casual. So we literally went to Macy's and bought new outfits and told us that he was hoping that the airport still had his carry-on for when he got back. And we were like, yeah, for sure. I'm sure they will. I don't know. I hope he found it, but I don't know. But still, it was really nice to get to know him and have dinner, and he made it back to where he was staying in Brooklyn safely, which glad about that because his phone was dead. And yeah, I don't know, we felt responsible for him to some degree, so I'm glad it was all fine. So then after that, we went and explored a little bit. We walked to Times Square, which is like the bane of my existence, but again, you have to do some of these touristy things because they are really cool and impressive, you know what I mean? Like, I totally get that, but it's just as you would expect, very crowded, very loud, overstimulating, which is what my coworker thought too. He was like, oh my god, this is a lot. So we were only there for a little bit, just kind of walking through and just experiencing it, especially at night when everything is lit up and it's so very lively. And then we walked back to the parking garage to go back to Long Island so that we could wake up in the morning and do it all again, which we did. And I will say, the second day was better all around because we went back to the Sewage Coffee Cafe. Why? I don't know, but we did. But this time we said, let's just get everything to go. We're not sitting. We're not inhaling sewage. We're just going to get the coffee and we're going to bounce and bring it to the training. And that's what we did. And great. It was great. We had no problem with the food or drink the day before. So I think that's why we made that decision. And it's something we knew. We already knew it. And we were just like, we have limited time. We have to get up early. Let's just do the thing that makes sense. So we did another full day of the training, and that was good. And then what did we do when we got out? Okay, yeah, it was dinner time. So this is Saturday. It was dinner time when we got out, and we're hungry, and we're like, we need something to eat. My coworker finds an Italian place. He finds an Italian place that's in walking distance of where we are. It's pretty close, maybe 10 minutes away. And we look inside, because you can see, like, it's big open windows, right? You can look in before you actually walk in. And I was like, this is looking very closed. This looks very closed. And it wasn't. We walked in, there was nobody there. Mind you, it is a Saturday night at 6 o'clock in New York City, Manhattan specifically. And the real estate is good. There's a lot of foot traffic. I'm like, what do all of these people know that we do not know? And I'm like, this absolutely has to be a front. And I still maintain that. Nobody was in that restaurant. It was weird. The food was good. It was good Italian food. Small portions, kind of expensive, but that's kind of typical for the area. But the vibe places to live aside from the apartment I was subletting that had tons of cockroaches and bed bugs and no working AC during a heat wave. The apartment itself was very cute, but just the stuff of nightmares. But anyway, this video is not about that. So we went there and we saw my friend's apartment, which is very cute. She had just moved in a week prior, so still lots of boxes and things, but it was really nice to see it and to hang out and catch up and also like sit down on a couch and kind of chill. We changed out of our business wear so we could kind of go out and just walk around. We didn't have any major plans, and again, she wasn't that familiar with the area because she had just moved in, and it was actually nowhere near where I lived those many years ago. Pretty much the other side of Astoria, which is totally fine, but I couldn't give her any pointers either, you know what I mean? I'm like, well, let's just walk around and see what we find. I had a real hankering for dessert, as I typically do, like every single day, so we ended up getting some ice cream, which was good, and just kind of kept walking around to see if there was any place we might want to just check out, nightlife-wise. But all we could find in the area we were in were, there were just like a bunch of hookah lounges, which is not my thing. I don't think that was any of our thing. Actually, I know it wasn't. Nobody wanted to do that. So we didn't, and we ended up just going back to Long Island a little bit early and hung out and just kind of sat at the table and chatted and had snacks, and yeah, we were up really late for no reason. I think we got back around 11, which is the earliest we had gotten back that whole weekend. We got back at 11 at night, and then I think we were up until 2 or 3. I want to say 2 or 3. I know I cracked open my leftover empanadas from the night before at 1:40 in the morning because my friend called it out and was like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, "I'm hungry. If we are gonna stay up and talk, I'm gonna eat." So anyway, we woke up the next morning around 6:45, somewhere around there, for the next day of the training. We got back into our little routine of hitting up the parking garage and blah blah blah. This time we went to a different breakfast place. They had some really good bagels. I got a bagel with avocado and a green tea with lemon, an iced green tea with lemon. It was really good. It was, again, extremely windy. Hair just everywhere, all over the place. But we finished up our training, and then luckily by the afternoon when we had gotten out, the weather was really quite nice, sunny, warm. It felt like a summer day. Kind of weird because it's April, but it literally felt like summertime, which worked out. So we ended up from there driving into Brooklyn, and our first destination was Dumbo, which is, if you're not familiar with the area, it's right on the Brooklyn side of the Brooklyn Bridge. So a lot of people will take that sort of classic, I don't know, like Instagram photo, or photo, period, with the Brooklyn Bridge in the background. That's typically taken in Dumbo. It's not the only place you can get the picture, but the best view is on a cobblestone street located in Dumbo. So we did that because it felt like a good place to take people who had never been there before. And we went into the Time Out Market, which is like a big ground level, what do I want to say? It's not a cafeteria. I mean, it's kind of like a cafeteria with a bunch of food vendors, outside and go sit on a rock by the water and just chill out. So that's what I did. I was done eating at that point anyway, and it was good. I had this sort of epiphany moment at this time as I'm trying to not blow chunks all over the place in public in front of people. And the epiphany was this. That was my first time back in Brooklyn since I had moved. And I didn't think about it until that moment. And I kind of just got hit with this wave of, oh my gosh, it's been so long. It feels like both yesterday and forever ago that I was here. Because I used to go to the Brooklyn Bridge Park all the time. That was my favorite park in Brooklyn, which is close to where I was when I was sitting on that rock, like a quick walk from it, you know. And I got hit with like a really unexpected wave of emotion. I wasn't anticipating it whatsoever, but I was like, wow, the last time I was here, I was terrified. I was traumatized by what was going on with the pandemic. I was anxious every day. I was sad every day. I was scared to be around people every day because this was like peak, right? This is when people were ending up in refrigerated trucks and funerals were happening on the sidewalk. Like, it was very in your face and it was very dramatic, and I realized that I never got to work through those feelings. So I got really emotional on that rock because I was back at a time where there's life again and joy and happiness. And I thought, wow, how grateful, how lucky am I that I got to live in a place that brings so many people joy, where I can sit on this rock and look around and see all of these people who came to visit this place, and that it is again a place of joy. Granted, it is still a place of stress, okay? Don't get it wrong, okay? Please do not misinterpret me on that. But I was able to see it for the complexity that it has for me, which is there are a lot of elements of living there that were incredibly stressful and difficult, and there's a reason why I left. But there's also a lot of magic and excitement and adventure, and there's just a really special energy with it as well. So while it was right for me and my mental and physical health to venture onto a next chapter, I was able to sit and feel that immense gratitude for having the experience of living there, and for how good it felt to visit again, to be back, to do the things that I've really missed, honestly. Again, despite the fact that I was feeling very ill on that rock, all of this was going through my head, and I was just happy, you know. Also a little nostalgic, a little, you know what I mean? It was a mix of feelings, but it was really good. It was a moment that I needed to have by myself. And I slowly started to feel better, and I went back in and reconnected with my friends, and we went up because there was a rooftop bar and just kind of hangout area, and we just went up. We took a few pictures because the views were nice, and then we ventured back out. Then we made our way over to Prospect Park, which, just like the quintessential Brooklyn experience, right? It's what you expect when you think of Brooklyn. Not me, but people who haven't been there, right? It's like you see all of the beautiful, expensive brownstones and all of the green space and all of the shops and the cafes and bars on like those strips of streets, right? It's all right there, everything you need. And again, that is the experience of somebody who has access to more resources than most, right? Financial, especially. That was not my living experience. But, you know, still a really beautiful place to explore, and especially for a first timer, they're like, wow, this is really beautiful. And you're like, yeah, it really is. Like, you can see why people want that. And if we all had millions of dollars, we could have that life too, you know? Or if we had relatives that got in early before the prices were jacked up an insane amount. But again, I was still feeling a lot of gratitude for even just walking down the street, right? I know that I will never be able to afford a brownstone. And that's okay, because, you know, I've got this new chapter that I am in right now. And that's another thing I was thinking about that I talked about in therapy, is like, I have this desire to make things very black or white, yes or no. It's just how some people handle things, right? They distinguish between right, wrong, yes, no, black, white. And don't leave a lot of room for gray. So I was trying to leave a lot of room for gray, thinking like, yes, perhaps if I had all of the money in the world, this could be another life that I live, right? And I can see the joy that people get from it and why they do it, right? But again, that's not my experience. That's not my lived experience. So what I can do is find joy in the visiting, in the vacationing, in the meeting up with old friends, and that can be enough for me. It doesn't have to be, oh, I love New York, I want to be there, or, oh, I hate New York, I never want to visit again. It can be somewhere in the middle of, it's not my forever place, but it's a place that I can go and really feel good and really enjoy the time. So we made our way into the park and we relaxed for a bit, sat in the grass, and just people watched. The people watching was so good, and just kids having fun and being kids, and again, it just felt like a perfect summer day in April. After that, we went to a few bars. The first place we went to was all beer, and I'm not a beer girly, and as you know, if you watched my videos lately, I haven't been drinking beer yet, so I just had water. But then afterwards we went farther south, like south Brooklyn, and that's where I most recently lived, so that was a total trip down memory lane. And at this point I'm like a full-on tour guide. I took us to our old apartment, and oh my gosh, the feeling of that was wild. And then we went and walked down all of the shops and restaurants and bars that I used to frequent, and we went to some of them, and it was just really cool to bring new people into an old place, like old to me place, right? We got dinner, we got Japanese food, and went to another few bars just to hang out and to tell stories and talk about the area and all of that. And we walked around a bunch before we headed back to Long Island for the final night. So it was really special. It was really cool to be back, and I would totally go back again, you know, spend more time there, because it was my home for a very long time. Not a very long time, but it felt like a very long time. Several years. But still, you know, it wasn't like South Brooklyn was my only home when I lived in New York. Like I said, I also lived in Queens. I also lived on Staten Island. I also lived on Long Island. So I was kind of all over the place, but that was my most recent home. And just being there, again, it brought out a lot of good feelings, but instantly, like, it totally brought me back to feeling stressed out. Like, I have tinnitus pretty much all the time, and nobody can tell me why. It's really annoying, but despite how loud it is in the city, my tinnitus was like on 10. I could hear my tinnitus constantly. Now, right here, as I'm recording this video, I'm in my home. It's quiet. I actually don't hear much at all. My tinnitus is very faint, Some days were better than others, but it was never good. And yeah, you just feel the stress, the anxiety of the crowds, of the people, of the noises, the horns, the sirens, all of it. And that can be an exciting thing, right? It's very lively, but at a constant, it's like, okay, I need quiet, I need peace, I need nature and green space. Like, it can take a toll. So it's like I had like a migraine all day, and the tinnitus was going crazy, and I was feeling a little bit testy at certain moments, especially when we are like dealing with traffic in the city, because people like drive very defensively because they have to. Like, I have to as well. We all have to if you want to get anywhere. But that can be really stressful, and people get mad. There's honking, there's biting. It's like, oh, it's the worst. Meanwhile, here in Vermont, people don't honk. Like, period. They do not honk. You could be sitting at a green light, like someone's on their phone. The light is green. No one honks. Granted, if that's the case, like, I'll honk eventually. I try really hard not to, but some people will just let you sit through the whole light. Like, it's not a thing that people do here. That was like a stark contrast from where I came from. It's like the second we got into New York, all you could hear was horns. People love using their horns in New York. And I'll be honest, it's kind of fun sometimes, you know. I did partake in the honking of the horn while I was there this weekend. You just can't help it. And sometimes you truly do need it, because, like, you know, people aren't always looking at everything at all times, and like accidents can really happen if people are not alerting each other. But sometimes it is totally out of rudeness and aggression that people honk, so, you know, it is what it is. So yeah, we ended up leaving Monday late morning, got back to Vermont on Monday late afternoon. Yeah, late afternoon. It only took us like 5 hours to get back, as opposed to like 6.5 when we went before. But the weather was nice and there was no traffic. So yeah, it was a really good trip. And like I said, comical. There were a lot of other little moments that happened that were really funny at the time. But I thought about sharing some of them, and I don't think they're funny if you don't experience it, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's one of those things where you kind of had to be there. But that's just so typical of the area, right? Like, just chaos sometimes. And you just gotta roll with it. But yeah, definitely a strong reminder of the contrast between living in Vermont and New York. Even though it hasn't been that long since I've been there, my body almost kind of forgot what it was like. The good and the bad, really. Like, both of it. Both of them. All of it. What am I trying to say? So yeah, since then, I have been catching up on yard work, which I have a lot to do. Because last summer, as you know, I was down and out with my knee surgery. So I couldn't do anything outside, which killed me. Because I could just see all of everything take over in a way that I did not want to do. I'm working really hard to meadowize my lawn, but I'm doing it in a way that isn't like sudden death to all of the grass. I'm trying to like balance out bringing in new natives and pollinators while also like trying to reduce the chokehold that the grass has on the other stuff. It's just like a lot of work, the way that I am doing this. And so when I lost all summer, it just turned into a nightmare. So I'm still trying to catch up from all of the growth, really. Like all of the long dead grass that I'm now wrestling with. And I have a good sized yard, so I'm starting on the front lawn, and I've been doing of rounds of that. And I started on the side of my yard today, and I haven't even touched my backyard yet. So, I'm trying to be as careful as possible because there is some good growth coming up. Native plants that I don't want to disturb. I want to be really mindful of preserving those because that's what I want more of, right? I'm on a good track, but it's slow. It's happening really slowly. So again, trying to slowly eradicate some of that grass by letting the other more hardy, resilient natives continue to populate. So, work in progress there, but I've been going out like every day after work and just trying to put literal work in, and my back is killing because I feel old. I'm not old, but I'm probably not using the correct form with the weed whacker or the rake, I don't know. I'll try to be more mindful of that. But it's a good workout, which I appreciate, so I didn't have to go to the gym today, so I'll take it. But yeah, that about covers it, I think. Nothing else super exciting.